So first of all, it is important to talk about the physics. It's very important to know some theory before actually starting to talk through all the membranes and how to choose them. So there is another main difference in membranes, and it is the following. So we have membranes which are monolithic and other membranes which are microporous. What is the difference? Hello everybody, I'm Matteo Androttala. I will present myself. I worked for a few years in Ireland as a structural engineer for a timber company. Then I moved back to Italy and I worked a few years for Ixlam Dolomiti as a structural engineer again. And currently I'm working as a technical consultant for Rotoblas. Okay, in the lection of today, we are going to talk about the waterproofing and the airtightness in timber buildings. And in particular, we're going to see how to seal a timber building, how to deal with the durability. And we're going to explain the membranes as well. We are going to talk about why membranes are so important in the design of a timber building. And we are going to see, last but not least, the reaction to fire that our membranes have. So first of all, it is important to talk about the physics. It's very important to know some theory before actually starting to talk through all the membranes and how to choose them. So how does it work? So in the air we have always vapor, and the vapor is trying to escape from the building, because inside usually there is a high pressure. So it is very important to design properly the wall buildup or the roof buildup, so that we don't have structural issues of our timber structure, which especially with a timber structure is very important to avoid, and of course to make sure that the people, the inhabitants of the buildings are living in comfort. So again, temperature and humidity are, again, I highlighted it and again because it's the most important thing. So how does it work exactly? I told you that the wall is breathing. So basically we have on the inside a bigger amount of vapor and a higher pressure as well. So this vapor tends to migrate, tends to pass through our wall buildup. And as I told you before, there's another thing to keep in mind. Passing through the wall buildup is gonna encounter zones with different temperature, and we just explained before that when the vapor contained into the air reaches a certain temperature, which is about 13 degrees usually, it can condensate. So we don't want our vapor to condensate on the surface, neither on the surface or on the inside of our wall, for example. So the temperature is very important, as I told you before, and this is a picture done with a thermal camera, and as you can see, the parts of our building, they are not always the same temperature. We have places, for instance, like around the windows, for instance, or when we have cold bridges, we have the temperature that is dropping down into some parts of our structure, and this is very bad because it can cause that condensation, because we always have vapor inside, and if the temperature is dropping down, it can be very dangerous. So it's very important to talk about the thermal conductivity, which is this lambda here that we are seeing. So different materials, they have different thermal conductivities. In timber structure, for instance, we are lucky in a sense because the timber has a very low conductivity, and therefore it helps out the to isolate to the insulation of the structure itself. And so we can see here in the graphic some other construction materials, for example, some very common construction materials, and concrete, for instance, or clay bricks they have a higher thermal conductivity, for example. So let's have a look at how to study the condensation inside a wall buildup. So we study it through this Glaser test method, and that's a way to find the dew point inside a wall construction. So we can see in the graphic two lines. One of them is the vapor content, and the other one is the temperature. And if the two graphics, if the two lines are colliding, like in the first case scenario, we really have an issue of condensation. In this case scenario, we have interstitial condensation. If the two lines are apart, that it's not a problem. So the Glaser test worked, and we are sure, let's say, that condensation is not happening inside our wall. Another very important thing about material is the SD, and the SD is an indicator of the resistance that a certain material is offering to the passage of the vapor. So we're gonna see again the SD when we talk about membranes, because it's very important to study the SD when you're choosing the right membrane. So it's measured. The SD is measured in meters because is the thickness it's the thickness of an equivalent layer of air which offer the same resistance to the passage of vapor as that of the material. So that's why it's in meters. And so inside our wall thickness, it is very important to have vapor control layers on the inside, and it's very important at the same time to have materials with very low thermal conductivity on the outside. So insulation material on the outside, so that our wall remains warm and there isn't too much vapor passing through. And if we try to keep these two things together, we are sure that we won't have condensation. But what do we do in the case that when, for instance, we have a buildup, which is in this situation? So when we study it and we see that there might be some interstitial condensation. So we are going to use membranes, of course. So all the membranes are water. They have water tightness. So that's a common characteristic of all the membranes. And another characteristic that all the membranes have is the wind tightness. So all of them can be used for the wind tightness and air tightness as well. What changes is what we just explained. So the SD, so the resistance to the vapor passage inside through the membrane. There is another main difference in membranes, and it is the following. So we have membranes which are monolithic and other membranes which are microporous. What is the difference? The monolithic membranes are the vapor can pass through with a chemical reaction. So as you can see in the image, all the molecules are in contact with each other. So it's a unique layer. Let's say like that. In the microporous products, all the molecules are produced in a way that there are some very, very small gaps between a molecule and the other. They're not holes, of course, because they are still waterproof, so we don't have holes. But the water molecules, the vapor can pass through through capillarity, throughout these small gaps that are formed. Another very important thing when you're choosing the right membranes, because there are, of course, a lot of membranes out there, and it's very important to choose the right one. So another very important thing is the tensile strength. And I'll give you another example. For instance, when you're onto an inclined pitch of a roof, and the installer, for instance, is stepping onto the membrane with his feet, and there are maybe some nails to keep the membrane in place. It's a possibility that you have is that the membrane tends to tear apart. So, for example, when you're placing a membrane onto an inclined roof pitch, it's important to choose a membrane that is that has a good resistance, to a very good tensile resistance. And for example, to prevent the tearing. Another very important thing is the UV stability, and of course a lot of membranes are inside the build-up of the wall, the construction of the wall. But when you're on site, of course, and you leave maybe the membrane to protect your timber building, sometimes the on-site works can stop for months, sometimes even more. So you have to make sure that you prevent this. So you don't leave your membrane for too long outside.